Okay, here we go. Alright, so it's been a while. I've been busy lately with a lot of stuff outside. And now this is probably the only time I can get to talk about it. So let's talk about it. First of all, the Miami Heat draft. Obviously, if you saw my video about Kel'el Ware, my reaction to Kel'el Ware, you already know how I feel about that pick. I didn't. I don't hate the pick. Just so we're clear here, I don't hate the Kel'el Ware pick. He's a shooter. He's athletic. He's 7'1". He's a rim runner. He can defend. We needed a center. We needed a backup center that's actually good. Here's the problem. Tristan De Silva was still available. Jared McCain is still available. Isaiah Collier is still available. And Dalton Knecht, who was supposed to be in the lottery, fell to the Heat at 15 and we didn't took him. That's why I was so pissed with the Kel'el Ware pick. I like Kel'el Ware, I just feel like we should have gotten someone else. Now, day 2. They took Pele Larson. No. Scrap that. They picked Nikola Jurisic. And then they traded him for Pele Larson. And after seeing some of his highlights though, I'm less angry now with the Larson pick than I was with the Kel'el Ware pick. Because this Pele Larson guy, think Grayson Allen is his best case scenario. A guy that can shoot threes, a guy that can defend, and is basically a connector. I love that. With that said though, I would have preferred Jurisic over Larson. And then after the draft though, the Heat decided to sign Keyshawn Johnson on a 2-way contract, who was teammates with Pele Larson at Arizona. I like Keyshawn Johnson. He's Haywood Highsmith with a Kenneth Farid motor. Something like that. Overall, the Miami Heat draft was a B-. It could have been better, but that's just me. Okay, let's move on to the trades that happened. Okay, Denny Avdia traded to the Blazers for Malcolm Brogdon, the 14th pick, which ended up being Bob Carrington, and a future first. Look, I loved it for the Blazers. Denny Avdia is a rising wing in the NBA. A guy that can defend, a guy that can pass, a guy that can do everything on the court except maybe for shooting. And his game is going too, so good pickup by the Blazers. For the Wizards though, they did draft Bob Carrington though, so they desperately need a point guard and they got one. And they also got Malcolm Brogdon, so they got an insurance policy in case Bob Carrington doesn't pan out. Yet. But it made no sense for them to trade Denny Avdia though. But that's just me. Okay, let's move on to the free agents. So I'm going to react to every single one of them. Alright, so OG Anunoby re-signed for 5 years to 12. Well, now they got Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby for the next though. They'll be a really good team in the East though. I say officially they're a top 2 team in the East. Even though they lost Isaiah Hartenstein to the OKC Thunder. 3 years, 87 million. Woo-wee! That is crazy though. Good freaking lord. He got paid though. But he went from a second round pick in 2017 to an 87 million guy. I couldn't be more happier for Isaiah Hartenstein. And the Thunder desperately needed a big man behind Chet Holmgren. Or someone that could start alongside Chet Holmgren. And given his contract though, he's probably going to start alongside Chet Holmgren. And then let's go Sixers side. They got Paul George. 4 years, 212. Look, for those of you who are hyped at the Sixers though, I'm a little different. I'm not. We saw footage that you cannot trust Paul George in a playoff setting. Joel Embiid can stay healthy. The only guy reliable on your team right now is Tyrese Maxey. By the way, I love the Tyrese Maxey contract. 5 years, $204 million. I love his contract. Good job. But then again, what Philly did though did not faze me one bit. That's all I'm saying. Oh, and Boston re-signed Luke Cornett for 1 year. Good for them. And then the Sixers also signed Andre Drummond. They signed Eric Gordon. And then they re-signed Kelly Oubre for 2 years, $16 million. Those are solid bench pieces for the Sixers though. My only issue though, they still have Paul Reed and they just drafted Adam Bona. So I feel bad for both of those guys because Drummond will most likely be the backup center for the Sixers. Okay, others, Siakam re-signed for 4 years, $190 million with the Pacers. They desperately needed that. Scotty Barnes re-signed, signs an extension for 5 years, $270. Ugh, very expensive. Quickly signed an extension for 5 years, $175. I don't know what Toronto's doing here though. That's $54 million a year for Scotty and $35 million a year for Emmanuel Quickly. And that's not even counting RJ Barrett's contract, which is close to $30 million a year. Look, Scotty is good though, but I don't think he's $54 million good. Same goes with Emmanuel Quickly. I don't think he's a $35 million a year good. But hey, it is what it is. Patrick Williams. Let's go to Chicago. Patrick Williams got an extension. 5 years, $90 million. Again, the Bulls are basically paying this guy for his potential at this point. Because at this point, I don't see it. But they did sign Jalen Smith though for 3 years, $27 million. I love that signing for the Bulls. Because they needed a rim protecting 3-point shooting big for a while now. And he could basically start alongside Vucevic. Or he could come up the bench and back up Vucevic though. It's either one or the other. Of course, we already talk about the Malik Monk contract. I love it. 4 years, $78 million. He didn't want to leave Sacramento, so I love it. James Harden returning for 2 years, $70 million. Again, he took a pay cut to hopefully re-sign Paul George, but it didn't happen. And even though they didn't re-sign Paul George, they still got Derrick Jones Jr., 3 years, $30 million. I loved it for the Clippers. Not so much for DJJ. I feel like he could have gotten more. They're also going to do a sign and trade for Chris Dunn. I think he's an upgrade over Westbrook at this point. They also They also signed Nicholas Batum. Welcome home, Nick. He never wanted to leave LA, and he's coming back to LA. And they also signed Mo Bamba. Basically an upgrade over Plumlee. Speaking of which though, Plumlee signed with the Suns, 1-year deal. They also signed Colin Gillespie on a 2-way contract. He could very well be the starting point guard on that team though, because they don't have any. And then, I believe, that means, oh wait, never mind. Drew Ebanks signed with Utah, 1 year. So they have a plethora of bigs now because they drafted Cody Williams, they drafted Collier, and they recently drafted Kyle Filipowski. So they got Filipowski, Ebanks, and Kessler now as their bigs. And that's not even including John Collins. One of those guys is about to get traded. Obi Toppin to the Pacers, back to the Pacers. 4 years, $60 million. Slight overpaid, but the Pacers kind of had to do it. The Denver, KCP is now signing with the Chicago Bulls. 3 years, $66 million. I love it for Orlando. I think this puts them as a top 3 team in the East now. They needed his shooting, his championship experience, and his defense. And I think Orlando is gonna love KCP. And now the move that I predicted though. Tobias Harris going to the Detroit Pistons, 2 years, $52 million. Of course, Cade Cunningham will also sign a 5-year, $226 million extension. But the Tobias Harris one, the Pistons are now getting the second best player in Tobias Harris. He's a veteran. And I know he's a playoff dropper. But in the regular season, he's going to help the Pistons a lot. Speaking of which though, the Pistons traded Quentin Grimes to the Mavericks for Tim Hardaway Jr. and 3 second-round picks. Tim Hardaway Jr., as inconsistent as he is a shooter. And he loves playing in Detroit though, so I love this for Detroit. They also got 3 second-round picks in the process. For the Mavs, Quentin Grimes is basically an upgrade over THJ. And on a cheap contract too, so good for them. Speaking of the Mavericks though, they signed Najee Marshall, 3 years, $27 million. I love it for Najee Marshall. I loved it for the Mavericks. He's a clear upgrade over DJJ though. And then, they signed Klay Thompson, sign and trade rather, 3 years, $50 million. Unfortunately, they have to give up a second-round pick and Josh Green, who's going to Hornets, by the way, to get Klay Thompson. The Mavericks needed his shooting. He's no longer a lockdown defender though, but he can still be a team defender. So they got Luka, Kyrie, and Klay Thompson in that lineup now. They don't have a perimeter defender though, but they excel in team defense, so I don't mind it. Okay, let's move on to the OKC Thunder though. Isaiah Joe re-signed, 4 years, $48. Slight overpay for a guy who's only known for his shooting, but they kind of had to do it. Aaron Wiggins, 5 years, $47 million. Love it for Aaron Wiggins. From 55th overall pick, now to $47 million guy. Love that move for OKC. Royce O'Neal though, going back to the Suns, 4 years, $44 million. They kind of had to do it. They don't really have anyone else there in Phoenix right now. Just saying. This is, in my opinion, the most confusing move in free agency right now. Jonas Valanciunas signing for the Wizards, 3 years, $30 million. Why? If the plan though is to play Alex Sarr at the 4, you gotta trade Kyle Kuzma. Otherwise, this signing makes zero sense. Because I believe Alex Sarr is a 5. He's not a 4. By the way, you also re-signed Richaun Holmes. What the hell? Anyways though, he's a solid big, but the signing is confusing as hell. Look, Plumlee signed with the Suns though. He's a slight upgrade over Ebanks, but not by much. Just saying. We move on to Orlando. Goga Bitadze re-signs with the Magic, 3 years, $25 million. Gary Harris re-signed with the Magic, 2 years, $14 million. They gotta spend their money somewhere though, and they chose Bitadze and Gary Harris. DeAnthony Melton leaving Philadelphia, going to Golden State. 1 year, $13 million. If he's healthy, he can help the Warriors in a way. One of my favorite signings this offseason though, Chris Paul to the Spurs. 1 year, $11 million. Wemby now has a lob passer and a safety blanket in case his teammates tries to mess with him again. Because Chris Paul's gonna make sure that they don't mess with Wemby. Just saying. Okay, a few more moves here. Helen Holiday goes back to Houston. 2 years, $9.6 million. Luka Garza returns to the Timberwolves for a 2-year deal. DeAndre Jordan returns to the Nuggets for a 1-year deal. Same goes with Alex Len to the Kings. Oh yeah, I already mentioned Eric Gordon. Garrett Temple re-signs with the Raptors to be their Udonis Haslem. Same goes with Ball returning to the Suns at 1-year deal. And most of these are just 2-way contracts at this point. Okay. That's it for now. Because I'm going to do another video about the Notice I didn't mention the Miami Heat in this video, the free agency, because I'm going to do a separate video on that one. By the way, thanks for watching. See ya.